Hello everyone, welcome to our free CorelDRAW Graphics Suite Power Half Hour Episode 2 with some more bonus content. My name is Shania Yap, publisher of South Africa at Practical Publishing, and I'd like to introduce you to our guest speaker Mo, who I'm sure we all know by now, but just in case you don't know Mohammed Jogi, he is the Design and Strategy Director at MSD. He's a CorelDRAW master and a regular contributor and presenter of our CorelDRAW content in the South Africa Journal and at the South Africa Expos and on the South Africa Live platform that we've had to launch during COVID-19. Just some housekeeping rules. We have a chat function for general banter, or if you're having any connectivity issues, just pop it in the chat section. We're pretty casual, and I will be the eyes and ears and reading the chats. So if you want to ask anything, that's the place to ask it. I love interrupting Mo. It's my favorite thing. So I'll definitely just check in with him and say what we need to know. We will be sharing the recording of the session. With it being a Friday, it will be shared on Monday during the course of the morning. And if you have any other questions, you can just stick it in the chat section or the Q&A. And we've got a poll section. If you look to the right of your screen, you've got the chat, question, and polls. We've got a couple of polls that we'd really like you to complete. We really value your input. And then we'd pretty much, we'll know what your thoughts are. I just want to make sure before I carry on, I can see all the comments, all the chats coming in. It's good to see you guys. Didn't want to carry on further until I made that connection. We had some tricky technical issues last week, which we hope we've ironed out this week. Mo and I have been practicing all week, so we hope and pray that this will go well. All things out of our control considered, like load shedding. So just to start off, last week, we had a lot of requests about the Corel promotion that's happening. And since then, we've been in touch with Corel Direct and DDS, and Mo actually got to pull this whole thing together for us. So when you want to buy the CorelDRAW Graphics Suite 2020, please contact DDS. They're a local distributor. The telephone number is in the chat section right now. It's the first thing I posted so that you guys can see it and reference it right there. Once you've made your purchase from DDS, they'll send us your details so that you can book your seat for our CorelDRAW in-depth workshop series that starts next month free. You'll get the first workshop free. That's really our added value to you guys to say thank you for buying the software. And then DDS will assist you with claiming back your 3,200 Rand cash back from Corel. I even have a co-presenter with me today. Really? Pets? If it's not kids, it's pets. I love working from home. So, oh my word. So that's our DDS promotion on the new CorelDRAW Graphics Suite 2020. If you've got any questions, you can pop that in the chat section. But for you to benefit from the free session, and it will be a 2-hour session on the 3rd of September at 11 a.m. Details will be emailed, so you don't have to try and remember everything off the bat now. You need to just buy your package from them. All right, so to kick off, we're going to do a quick 5-minute recap of variable fonts and the AI-powered creativity from last week. I'm going to be watching the clock, so Mo can zip through those slides. And then we've got some new bonus content, exploring powerful photo editing and the CorelDRAW app. And that should fill a good half an hour of meaty content. All right, Mo, over to you.
Thanks, Shania. Hello, everybody. Welcome again. Apologies for the chaos last week, but it never ends. So I'm sitting on UPS power, and hopefully, things don't die out on us again. But, all things considered, as Shania said. So based on the feedback we got last week, we thought we'll just do a quick recap of some of the elements, because as a practicing designer myself, I find a lot of value in it. And we thought we'll just kind of run through that again so you get maximum value, but we're not gonna hover on it for too long. I tend to move around a lot, so I'm going to, at this point, kill my camera. And the reason
real life feedback.
the reason for the odd kind of camera angle is because I'm using a mobile studio and it's got this 45-degree angle for drawing. So I'm gonna kill that for a moment so I can move around at will.
Freely.
And you don't have to kind of break out into a kind of epileptic fit on your end, okay? All right, so let's jump in.
Can you share your screen bigger? Just, I don't know where you maximize that, just so that I'm not so big.
Sure, let me do that. Is that better?
Ah, magnifique. Okay, I'm also going to switch off my camera so we don't tempt fate.
Right.
There we go. Over to you, Mo.
Okay, so thanks, Molisa, for the nice comment on your end. I'll try and keep an eye on comments as we go along, but I'm flying a little blind, so Shania will keep me in check. Catherine, my pleasure for the speaker. Not sure what you mean by that. Please give me more. Is there something I owe you? I'm not sure. Okay, so we're going to jump into.
I think your sound is just a lot better.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. Apologies for last week. We didn't realize it was as bad as it was, but here we are. And thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. At the end of the day, we are one community, right? So what we were trying to show you last week, and hoping we did a good enough job so we'll just kind of do a kind of flyover today, is variable fonts. So for those that were asking, the variable fonts GitHub link, it's a Google font, so you can download it free, the fonts that I'm using. So you can try it yourself, okay? And I encourage you to try it yourself because it makes for a very light font weight in terms of when you're going from bold to italic, you don't need all these multiple fonts, and it makes it easier for those of us that are doing output, okay? I remember there was a person that was doing laser. I forget your name, I do apologize. But that kind of functionality is really helpful because the file that ends up being sent to the RIP is quite small, right? So this is source sans variable. Are you guys able to see my screen okay? I mean, the interface, is that okay? Or would you like me to make it a bit larger? Thanks, Catherine. Oh, okay, thank you, Janine.
And Janine,
okay.
Yeah.
So Janine's saying it's okay, all right. So basically what you do to
Can you lose the navigation, Mo? I think earlier we had a look and there was less navigation and more screen noise.
I need it
okay.
for the demo.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep quiet.
Okay, thank you. I need to show people where to go to the internet.
Apparently it's perfect. I don't know why I'm chiming in. I'm going to shush now.
Okay. We'll give Shania a moment to have a pulse, okay, guys? So there's two locations you guys can access these variable fonts from, okay? It's this little double A that you're going to find in your control bar at the top, as well as if you head over to the Properties Inspector and you click on the character component, you'll see there's an FX icon that pops up alongside it. Sorry, not the FX, I beg your pardon, the little double A just alongside the weight of the font, right? So either way, you can access it. So let me do it both ways. Here on the top, this is an easier font to work with because it just does weight, and we'll look at Amstelvine in a moment, which does both, right? So you can see that you are now adjusting the weight of the font without actually choosing a different font. So it's the same font. All the computer now does is it goes, oh, okay, you want a weight of 340.29 in this case, okay? And that's what it sends to the RIP. Why this is also helpful is for those of us that are doing like cross-media work, that is, you're doing both print, web, video, and if you're just a print provider and you're getting these requests for web and video, my advice to you is to start taking that on because the tools will allow you to kind of push out to those formats, right? And if you're not quite sure how to make the transition, just reach out to us because we can easily put together a workshop on how to make that leap. It's, I'd say 60% of the knowledge you already have in your head because you're kind of pushing pixels to an image setter of some sort. Okay, so let's have a look at Amstelvine, which of course is a meatier one. to use Shania's terminology. And what you'll notice is when I click on the double A this time, you guys, you'll see that, and this is baked into the font, okay? So all of these elements are baked into the font. So here you'll see grad very quickly again. Grad allows you to change weight of a font without taking up more or less space. You'll see the space that it uses is exactly the same. Let's do another quick one. I'll do the ascender, so watch the Ds, right? So you can create really cool type-based logos quite easily with this type of technology, right? So yeah, that's basically variable fonts, okay? The reason they have these odd names, like grad and XOPQ and so on, is because that ties in with CSS style sheets for the web, okay? And that's basically why it's that way, in case you're wondering. So the next thing we spoke about last week, which I think moves beyond the bells and whistles of software updates. I think this offers true value for you and I as creators, is this upsampling engine that Shania referred to earlier. So how does it work? So very quickly, we're going to just do a zoom in on this magnifier. We're going to blow this guy up. And typically what we end up with is we end up with these jaggies. And the reason for that is when you scale something up, the computer has to guess what pixels should be there. So when it puts in pixels, it makes assumptions. So how does it make assumptions? It samples pixels and goes, oh, that's a black pixel and that's a slightly lighter pixel. I think I should take a mix of the two. So technically, it's putting information that wasn't in the original. What these guys have done with the software is they've done quite a bit of work on the AI engine. And the guy in the circle is the old way. So let's look at what they're recommending should be a workflow now. If you go to bitmaps, the first thing you want to do is remove JPEG artifacts. And what that's going to do, you guys, it's going to remove these, or it's an attempt to remove these jaggies as best as possible, okay? So that's the first thing you would run. Then what we're going to do is we're going to hit the resample image icon. And let's see if I can move this out of the way. Let me try a different method. Bitmaps resample. There's my floating dialog box. That's what I wanted. Okay. So now what we'll do is we'll do a ridiculous jump. We'll just go straight up to 400%. And again, we've covered this last week. So if anything doesn't make sense, feel free to drop it into the chat, and we can have a conversation. So if you're able to have a look here, you'll see that the original file size was just under a meg, and now we're sitting at 15.5 meg. So it's a substantial jump in terms of size, right? We're going from let's have a look. We're going from, here we are, 898, so just under 1,000 pixels to close on 3.5 to 4,000 pixels, right? So you can see that that's quite real. And if you prefer millimeters, we can change that to millimeters, and let's just make a change. I'll just make this 300. I forgot, and then again, right? 400 is good. My recommendation when you're working with this is it's just the way the engine works, is work in even numbers. So, go 100, 200, 400, 800 is the recommendation, because that's how the engine basically interpolates the information. So now what we have here is, if you guys are using this, you want to choose bicubic. So the way I would explain this, you guys, is nearest neighbor is it's going to look on either side of the pixel before it adds a new pixel. Bicubic is going to look at 8 pixels around, 8 neighboring pixels around the pixel that it's trying to resample, and then add that. So it's going to give you a much better result, okay? And then you can say whether it's a photo, in this case it is. We're going to remove a bit of noise. We're going to hit the OK button. And basically what it's now going to do is going to do the crunching for us. So now it's doing the upsampling. And what's cool is it gives you a timer as well. Does that make sense? Is everybody okay with that? Any questions at this point? Shania, we good?
No questions. I'm just watching the time, Mo.
Okay. These are worth spending time on, you guys. So, excuse me. They're really, really valuable, I think. So there you can see the before and after. So typically what we would end up as a result in what we're ending up with this new engine. So I'd urge you to check it out, right? If you're wondering, this is, of course, a Graphics Suite 2021 feature, okay. So the other thing that we do a lot is, especially if you're in signage and so on, is you obviously recreating logos on a regular basis. And up to this version, if anybody said, hey, what's the best way? I probably would still answer this way. The best way is to actually redraw the logo, but sometimes the budget doesn't allow or the time doesn't allow. So we're just going to talk to that very quickly. And what we shared last week, Shania and I, is we just shared how this would work. So what they've done to Trace, and you guys are probably very familiar with Trace because it's been around forever in Draw. The cool thing here is if I go clip art in this case, it's going to go ahead and do the trace for us. It's going to show you how this engine works. So you'll see it's done a fairly compelling job. I'll zoom in a minute. But what I want to do here is go and remove JPEG artifacts. This is an illustration that I scanned in, okay? And in this case, it's an illustration. We'll set the number of colors very quickly. Let's see how many she pulls up. She's come up with 5. I'm going to drop it to 2. Okay. And we'll change the settings. Again, these are controls that you guys have access to. So let me go ahead and zoom in so you guys have a better sense of what's going on here. Okay, so you can see that you've got a fair amount of fuzz, and that edge there is what we call the JPEG artifact, okay? And you can see it does a fairly good job. It has a very valuable purpose, but you know, in instances like this, it's not what we want. So let's put this side by side. Let's go ahead and zoom in. And you can see you get a fairly compelling result, okay? In terms of the node efficiency, it's just, they've done a good job on that too. So, you know, kudos to them on that. Excuse me. So let's take this kind of typical logo scenario. It's a fairly complex one. And let's see how the engine handles against something like this. So we'll go trace bitmap again. I'm going to choose outline trace. In this case, I'll choose logo. And what will
am I right? Sorry, this is only available in the 2020 version.
So trace is available in older versions, but what I'm sharing with you now in terms of, okay, so let me answer the question this way, Shania. Tamara, this is for you, I guess, right? So yes. In previous versions, you're not going to have, what version do you have, Tamara? Do you mind just slapping that in the mailbox?
Yeah, Tamara, what version do you have?
Archie, definitely not in 2018. Sorry, man. It's not in 2018. You'll be able to do a trace in 2018, Tamara and Archie. You'll be able to do the trace. But this adjustments function, this entire panel is only 2020, right? So you'll be able to do all of this, but you'll be able to set colors, but you won't be able to tell the computer, hey, to remove JPEG artifacts. And this is actually an illustration. So this key component here is missing. So if you can take advantage of that offer. So you can see it's done again a fairly stellar job of a trace in a couple of seconds. Let's go ahead and hit the OK button. And I'm just going to move this guy over to the side so you get a better sense. Now there's a couple of things that we want to get rid of, like there's the white in the ear and you know, the bowls in the dizzy dog. And how I would suggest you do that, rather than ungroup, which would be our typical kind of go-to action, right, you guys, is to jump in here. And you'll see that we have all of those elements. There you can see I've selected the nose, etc. And in another, I won't do that today because we won't have the time to show you the other stuff. In another webinar, Shania will quite sure remind me of this promise is we'll talk to the new powerful find and replace function. So you can see I've just gone and selected those elements and I just hit the delete key and there we're done and dusted. So now let's do a quick compo between the two so you can get a sense of the difference, right? So I'm just zooming.
How quick? Look at me, the timekeeper. Wow. Very fuzzy, Mo. Show us the difference.
So I am actually.
I see that.
So to the trained eye, to the trained eye, of course, the vector's on the right-hand side, right? You guys can see this, right? So there's the vector object
only a piece
on the right-hand
of it is
side.
that right, yeah.
And then, of course, you can see that we're dealing with a fairly pixelated object. What is our view percentage here? Shania, can you tell?
No, I can't.
How about now? That's right, 1,399%. So it's a fairly...
Thank you. Just what I was thinking, actually. What's your favorite color?
Fairly big zoom. Okay, so those two features, you guys, hands down, makes CorelDRAW 2020 worth it for me. You know, I'm not a salesman. I don't, you know, whatever version you want to continue using, it's amazing. But and that's right, Tamara. For me, I find that these two things are going to save you a lot if you're in the production environment. Okay, so they kind of forgive me for saying this, but I need to say it as frankly as I can. They kind of know bullshit features, right? They just get in there and you get the job done. Okay, cool. So let's move on. Then what we have is, if you guys are into framing or you're kind of doing poster work or all of those types of things, these features may be of value to you. Again, we covered this in the last session, but because the last session was a bit of a upsy daisy, we just thought we'll talk you through it again. So basically what we have is we can apply bitmap effects inside of Draw to both image objects like this on the far left-hand side, as well as to vector objects on the right. So we'll kind of look at both very quickly. And what we're talking to is of course, we've got everything from blurs and feathers. I'm busy doing an iteration of a responsive web design at the moment, and I'm using blurs, feathers, and cast and drop shadows directly inside of Draw without me having to go to an image editor, which is really cool. So, you know, if that's of value to you, if you're kind of doing packaging or anything like that, be happy to cover something like that in a version. But here what we want to talk to is these art styles, right? So that's what we covered last week. Now, we're not being stingy with the information. It's just that we don't want to waste your time. We want to show you the new stuff, right?
Yes, I also want to see the new stuff. The voice in the background.
So what I wanted to show you is that we've created 3 or 4 different types of art styles. So you'll know where to go, right? You guys, you're going to just go effects and choose the plus and then hit creative, right? Just a quick reminder where you're wanting to go. So it's the plus there, creative, and art styles. And from that subset, we'll be able to choose these options. So these are the ones that I particularly like, and Shania seemed very excited by them as well. So that's the pastel mosaic. That's
I
sunset.
Loved it.
It's delicious, right? And that's a woodcut. So, you know, those are 3 of, I think, about 12 or 15 different styles that are there. Now, when we're working with image objects, one of the easy ways to change color, as you guys would know, is to make use of hue saturation, right? It's just a quick way of making color changes. Let me zoom in a bit here. So when we're making color changes to vector objects, it would be cool if we had like a hue saturation kind of equivalent, right? So let me zoom up again and zoom right back in. Okay, my UPS is beeping, so I'm hoping that's not going to die anytime soon. And what we have here, you guys, is we go over to properties. If it dies out, I'll get into my mobile connection, so there might be a slight cutout, and I apologize for that. Okay, I'm frightened. If we go to adjust, we're going to go to hue saturation lightness over here. You'll see what we can do is we can go ahead and make an adjustment to the hue, and you'll see that these colors are changing here in the background. I'll just increase the saturation quite heavily so you can see this. A bit garish, I know, but you can see that we're getting real-time application of a bitmap effect on a vector object, and this is totally live. So if the client says, hey, show me a before after, you just click on the eyeball. There's the before, there's the after. If the client says, hey, can you tone it down a bit, you click on the pencil and you're able to go right back in and make those adjustments, right? So for those of us that are on earlier versions, you know, again, you'd be able to apply bitmap effects to vector objects as of 2019, right? So 2019, 2020, you'll be able to use these features, but this creative feature set that I'm sharing with you now is again available in 2020. All right, so let's move on from that. The next thing I'd like to share with you is, Shania, do you want to talk to this? My apologies, I'm kind of just rattling on you. I'm so sorry.
You know, I was just trying to type quietly on the side, so I switched off my mic. So no, I'm up for introducing powerful photo editing. I mean, that's what we have to cover next. This is the new bonus content for today. So over to you, Mo.
Right. So we're going to just play around with these iterations, right? The first thing I'd like to share with you guys is the round tripping that we have between Draw and Paint. And what we're going to go ahead, there's some birthday wishes coming through on the chat pod that I've just picked up on. Yeah, so happy birthday.
Well, birthday wish lists, birthday wish lists, not wishes. Just people want to put 2020, you know, the CorelDRAW Graphics Suite on their 2020 birthday wish list.
Well, Tripti's got it tomorrow. So happy birthday for tomorrow, Tripti. Hope you have a fabulous one. Okay, so what we're going to go ahead and do here is we're going to go ahead and make an edit. So for example, we'll do something like this. I just want to show you how quickly you can do that. And I want to share with you one or two of the new features. So this is how I kind of trigger it. And you may work differently, but I find this really easy to work with. So if I right click on the image, I hit edit bitmap. What it then does is it routes through to Photo Paint. So I just wanted to show you how you'd manipulate something like this. Now, if you're using previous versions, again, just to make it version agnostic, you could use, I would suggest, in fact, Cutout Lab would be a good one. So this goes back a number of versions back. So definitely check that one out. And if you'd like us to do one on Cutout Lab, we'll do so. I'm going to use a Smart Selection mask here. And the way I like to work with masks is I like to make two things visible. Firstly, of course, the mask marquee so you can see it. But then I also engage the mask overlay. Are you seeing my screen okay? And you're hearing me okay, right? Hello?
Yes, it looks like... Yes. Perfect. Thanks.
Let me know if there's any lag because I'm on my mobile phone now. So we would go and use mask overlay here. And basically what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to give the computer a sense of what areas we'd like to pick up. In this case, it's easier to pick up the background than it is to pick up the guy, right? So we're going to go with reverse psychology. And the tool I'm using, by the way, is the Smart Selection Mask tool, okay? So essentially what I'm going to go ahead and do is, I must click there, I didn't mean to click. But you can see it's taken away a bit of the background. So I'll go ahead and do something like this. And what you'll see it's going to do is it's going to go and look for the edge for us. Can you see? So again, we're getting the computer to go ahead and look for the edge for us. So once we start the process, what we'll then do is we'll say add to the mask. And basically as we then work through, what's going to now happen is it's going to add to the mask, if that makes sense for you guys. There you can see we've got a little bit there in the shadows, so I'll pick that up. And the processing, of course, then is done by the computer. So let me do something like that, I guess. Again, just giving it a couple of seconds to kind of chug through. You can see it's picked up a bit of his cheek. I'll show you how to deal with that in a minute. Let's deal with this bit over his head here. Get rid of that halo. And perhaps that. Okay, now we've got that hole in the cheek as you and I can see. So that's why the mask overlay I find helpful. I just go ahead and click over there, roundabout over his nose area, and that should pick up his cheek and close that out, okay? So again, I would go and fiddle and clean out the hair and those sorts of things, maybe something like that, and take it to where you want, like, you know, go and clean up around the neck area. But you can see very quickly we can get a selection going using this new functionality, right? So let me undo that. Excuse me. What we're going to go ahead and do now, you guys, is I like to work in a non-destructive way. So I'll come in here and you'll see that this image is on the background. So I'll float it by clicking on the far right icon. So that's now a floating layer, if you will, or a floating object in this case. And essentially what you can do is simply go Command and paste like so. But of course, our mask is inside out, right? So what you want to do here is going to go to Mask, and you're going to choose Invert Mask. So we have the reverse of, and this becomes easier to see. And then it's simply a case of Command-C, Command-V, or Control-C, Control-V on the PC. Let's hide that mask for a moment so you guys can see what's going down. So if I choose Mask Overlay here, I'm also going to remind myself to lose the selection. So I'll get rid of the selection, remove mask. We don't need it anymore. I'll just show you the eyeballs very quickly, and you can see this checkered edge. Are you guys able to see the checkered edge okay?
Yeah.
So this checkered edge, of course, as you guys know, represents transparency, okay?
I thought it was a cool
Now
background.
what I'll go ahead and do is, with this background, the image, as
Oh, you just broke up there, Mo. What were you saying with this background? And
you
then
see, is currently going to make it CMYK color. Oh, you lost me there. So
yeah,
I was saying that we're going to just go ahead and introduce some bitmap effects to the background, Shania. So I'm converting this from a grayscale image, which is black and white, to a CMYK image for print, right? Of
thanks.
course,
Oh, the sound is dipping
on the
out
web,
there.
it'll go RGB in your case. And what it's wanting to do is it's wanting to flatten these objects. I'm sorry for that, I'm mobile. So just tell me when that happens and I'll try and repeat.
Yeah,
myself,
you just
okay?
dipped out before you said RGB. So if you said anything important before RGB, repeat it, please.
Right. So basically what it's going to do is it's going to flag you and say, hey, listen, do you want to flatten and merge the layers? And in my case, I've said, no, don't merge the layers. I'd like you to keep them separate. So you'll see that these two objects remain separate. And that gives you the flexibility of efficient workflow. So the more you work with these object layers and lenses in PhotoPaint, the easier it's going to be for you to then make changes and edits, okay? So essentially what we can then do is go and work on the background independently of him now. And that's basically how these guys have been put together. And I'll show you in a moment where we take one of those and we kind of jump across, right? But I wanted to show you from scratch, so there's no smoke and mirrors, so you can see how it was done, okay? Happy days?
Yeah, no smoke and mirrors.
I'm going to head over to effects. I'm going to head over to effects over here. And we're overrunning on time a little bit, but we have had a technical glitch. Shall we go till another 5 or so minutes? Is that okay for everybody?
It's good with me. Let's see. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm blind to the chat because...
Yeah, no problem. Mm-hmm. Mike, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
It was actually Inez Nell's wish list. If Corel can create a way to convert CDR files into InDesign, you would make a lot of Corel fans very happy.
Yeah, that's their arch nemesis. I can't see that happening anytime soon. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what people are saying. Enemies. Okay. No workaround then. Can't hear you at the moment. If you're chatting, your sound's dropped. Oh, there we go. You're back.
Am I back?
Mm-hmm. You're back.
I do apologize. I'm on mobile, so it's going to be dipping in and out. Gosh, I hate ESCOM.
Me too.
I'm trying to speak for everybody on this call. Right. Right. So anyway, really? that's my diatribe for the day. So so getting it from Corel to InDesign, you could go PDF, and InDesign can place a multi-page PDF document. If you want editability, and I'm assuming that's what you're chasing, right? You would have to go from Corel to PDF. And then there is a converter that allows you to go from InDesign. It's made by a company called Marksware. It's called PDF to ID, PDF, and then the number 2 and then ID. It's not by any chance a cheap plugin. It costs probably more than CorelDRAW does. Maybe a third to half the price. So it is quite expensive, but that will allow you then to take that PDF and then be able to get back, I'd say, some of the editability. You'll never get back all of the editability, okay? And the reason for that is simply it's like language, if you go from English to Afrikaans, so you go from English to Zulu or Zulu to Xhosa, there's subtleties in language that don't quite transfer. And a classic example is, say smashing pumpkins in Afrikaans or Zulu. You got like...
Oh, your sound just broke up. It's okay. I can understand every second word.
dynamics of
Hardly.
language that play through. So the same thing's going to happen when you move from one app.
Okay. All right. Sorry. That was just that question. So I think that answers
Am I back?
Let's go back to the screen. Yeah, you back?
Hello. Shania, can you confirm if I'm back?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
I can hear you, Mo. Can you hear me?
Let's see. Yeah. No,
if you can't hear me, all right, check your chat section. We can hear you. Yeah, we can definitely.
Can you guys hear me? Oh, thank you. Okay,
we can hear you,
cool.
Bro.
Sorry, I need to hop back and forth. So you guys, you know what? I'm going to turn on notification bell on my side so I can hear if you guys say anything. Okay, thanks, Tato. Noted, my brother. So I'm gonna yak on. I'm not sure what happened to Shania there. So basically, let's do this, right? So I'm gonna go ahead over to Effects, and I'm gonna click on the plus, and I'm gonna go over to Creative, and we're gonna go to Fabric, and you can see now we've got this thing here. But before I do that, let's go ahead and make a quick change here. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go Adjust. Let's go Hue Saturation. Bring some color into the background from the grayscale image, right? So I'll just go ahead and sorry, I chose the wrong one. My apologies. So I'll go there again and choose Adjust. And this time I'll try and pick up Hue Saturation instead of Brightness Contrast. Okay, very good. And what I'd like to do here is just jump up the
What were you saying? When you go there, you like to jump up the what?
So we got some color going there. Let's drop the that is in a moment. I'm going to go ahead and just apply that. You'll see that that will sort itself out. So I'll go again, Creative, and let's use one of the new fabric options here. So again, you can see you've got different possibilities. You know, I can go and choose needlepoint or whatever. I quite like Quilt. You can increase the size of these guys. You can play with the completeness, that is, give me more squares or less squares, and so on and so on and so on. And that's pretty much it. So when you're done, what you can do is say finish editing and hit the apply button. That's going to route right back to Draw, right? I'm going to basically revert my document and not save this. So I just had a ping there. I just want to see what's going on in the chat pod. Forgive me for a minute. The last one was from Tato, so I'm assuming everything's still okay.
Yeah, it might have been a question.
Shania, if you are around, just jump in and let me know that everything's okay.
Yes, thank you.
You guys can see the screen? Just need to bounce back here. Oh, okay, cool. So I'll just redo that for you guys quickly. I'm sorry, I didn't realize you didn't see the screen. So here I'm in Corel. I'm going to make an edit, right? And we'll just go here and I'll run that effect again very quickly. So we're going to plus, we'll go Creative, we'll go Fabric, you guys. We'll introduce the quilt. That's what I was showing when you guys weren't able to see the screen. I'll go to Objects here. You can see I've got two layers here, you guys, or two objects, and I'm just going to go and play with the blending modes here. So that's an add. Let's find something that's nice. Yeah, overlay seems to work, right? So it's subtle, it's there, it's cool. So all I do now is I hit the apply button, hit finish editing, and I'll say yes. Okay, right. So basically what I was saying is work on layers, and when client makes changes, use that effects control, this little FX thing, because this is completely non-destructive. So whether you're doing this in Draw or you're doing this in Corel Photo Paint, the results are the same, okay? And what I was referring to is, let me just select this logo here. This FX icon here is what I'm talking about. So all of the elements on this FX icon are totally non-destructive, okay?
Okay.
So I chose the Southern Africa logo here, and they go ahead and make changes to this.
I don't know if Tristan's going to be happy with that.
All of this is non-destructive. I'm not going to go and destroy the Southern Africa logo in this case, but you can Right.
Thank goodness.
Now, if you happen to be on, I believe it's 2018 or later, what you have access to is this app called CorelDRAW app. And what CorelDRAW app does is it allows for you to work on the fly on any device that has a mobile, that has a web browser, essentially. So you can do this on your mobile phone, you can do this on your iPad, you can do this on a computer that even doesn't have CorelDRAW installed. You just need to go ahead and log in. So this comes as part of your subscription to the Corel service, okay? And if you've got a cracked version, then you're kind of screwed, I guess. But this is CorelDRAW app. You guys can see the screen okay?
Yes.
All right, so what I'm working in here, you guys, is I'm working in the mobile version of the app. You just go through to CorelDRAW app and you'll have access to the tools.